Hello Battlecats players, my name is Chance and welcome to my guide. Today we're talking about one of the most disappointing units I have ever had to make a video on so far. And it is likely a unit you've never really heard of, although might look fairly familiar. We're talking about Evangelist Cat. This uber rare cat is largely considered to be unobtainable. Basically, he was gainable by inputting a serial code that was found on Ponos employees' business cards, and he was available for a limited time in the Korean version as well. However, since serial codes aren't really a thing anymore, you can't really get him. The exception being in Battle Cats Unite, where he drops after completing the Cats of the Cosmos instead of Filibuster Cat X as we have it in the mobile version. Now, in case they ever bring back serial codes, it is my hope that by exploring everything there is to know about Evangelist Cat, so that you can make a more informed decision on how to best use him and how to best invest into him. Let's start first by talking about his evolutionary line. Evangelist Cat only has two forms, starting out with Evangelist Cat itself, whose description reads, "Unlocked by meeting all the legends, stops the movement of enemies, summon when you are losing ground." Then at level 10, it becomes Filibuster Cat, uses special powers to interrupt time, stops the movement of enemies, summon when you are losing ground. There are plenty of references and inferences based around this cat and its descriptions. We'll get into all those in a little bit here. As far as performance is concerned, this cat is considered to be a crowd controller, much like so many of the previous cats we've covered. My goodness, it really is a week of the crowd controller. Under pros, you have extremely cheap to produce, exceptional range, and decent movement speed. Under cons, a very long recharge time, extremely slow attack rate and animation, very low health and power. And other considerations, you have a 100% chance to freeze non-metal enemies for 5 seconds. And my goodness, is his attack rate and animation slow. Holy moly, guys. You'll see it in a little bit, but I went out of my way to really just spam this cat, and his recharge rate is so slow that I used the Cat God power up to do it. And frick, even then, with a bunch of them on the field, his attack rate and animation still bottlenecked. It's unbelievable how bad this cat is. Let's actually check out some gameplay footage now and take a look at some strategy. First and foremost, as far as cost is concerned, Chapter 1, 333 cents, Chapter 2, 499 cents, and Chapter 3, 666 cents, which is weird for a cat named Evangelist Cat, but whatever. If you haven't really queued in yet, this is incredibly cheap for an Uber, so you must be thinking that's a good thing. And sure, maybe to some extent it is. The issue with Evangelist Cat, however, is his cooldown takes so dang long. This is kinda negligible. As far as use cases, he's very similar to Balalan Pasalan. At least in the way that they guarantee freeze from long distance, have fairly low stats otherwise, and a long recharge time. So I guess Evangelist Cat, he's a little bit better in some ways, but he is probably one of the most painful cats to use I've encountered so far. And of course, his main purpose as a crowd controller is to just stop enemy units. And in theory, he can do that fairly well. Like a 5-second freeze is nothing to sneeze at. He just doesn't attack very often, so you can't perma-freeze with him, right? I mean, I guess up against mini waves, you could use his range and then freeze enemies and then get a close, like a mid-ranger or a melee freeze crowd controller in there while the unit's frozen from Filibuster Cat or Evangelist Cat, and then you can perma-freeze them that way, I guess, is probably the best use case. But if he misses, he misses. So it's I don't know. It's one of those weird cats where it's hard to pin a ideal use case without really stretching the probability. Now then, seeing as how there's no cat combos, no cat food, I'm just gonna flash a couple of the stat screens pertaining to Evangelist Cat and just read out some trivia. The legends in Evangelist Cat's description are the Ponos employees themselves, whose business cards have the required serial code. Evangelist Cat looks like Frieza's true form from Dragon Ball Z. Its attack is also a reference to Frieza's Death Ball. Evangelist Cat is one of the cheapest uber rare cats, behind only Chicken Cat, which no longer exists and was never obtainable to begin with, and Cheetah Cat, which is also unobtainable. Evangelist Cat is the only non-special cat to be obtained via serial code, and is the only uber rare besides Chicken Cat and Cheetah Cat not to drop from the rare cat capsules. Even though Evangelist Cat is unreleased in the English version, he is still unlockable via hacking, but he does not have an entry in the cat guide. Filibuster's design was used as a base for Filibuster Cat X. The two also have similar roles and abilities, but Filibuster Cat freezes almost all enemies, while Frieza Cat X only freezes traitless. In the Battle Cats Unite, this unit's normal and evolved forms are Filibuster Cat Alpha and Filibuster Cat Beta, respectively. As a quick aside, I'm also pretty dang sure that the time manipulation mentioned in Filibuster Cat's description refers to the absolute nonsense that is the 5 minutes before Namek blows up, which consists of like 2.5 episodes of Dragon Ball Z. And I know the Dragon Ball Z nerds are going to be like, well, that's just because Frieza and Goku were moving at such a fast rate that they had to, time moved slower to them. And to that I say, we know that's baloney because there are cuts to other characters during that fight, and they seem to be moving at roughly the same speed. So I don't know, it doesn't make sense to me. Maybe 5 minutes on Namek is different to 5 minutes everywhere else, but time being universal constant kind of defeats that purpose now, doesn't it? And we all know that the real reason that happened was to just pad out the runtime. That's literally it. However, the Namek Goku has got to be one of my favorite of all-time characters in any anime. And if you haven't already, be sure to check out Team 4 Star's Dragon Ball Z Abridged. It is well worth it. In any case, that's really all I have to say about Filibuster Cat and Evangelist Cat. I think they're completely useless for the most part. Every possible scenario for them being useful is really just stretching and grasping at straws. However, negativity aside, if they reduce the recharge rate as well as just made his attack happen more frequently, I feel like this might actually be a viable unit. Even if they have to increase the cost a fair bit, I think that's fairly well balanced. That being said, the odds of this cat ever being released into Battle Cats again is virtually zero, I would say, which is unfortunate, but, you know, unfortunately, Ponos got rid of virtually all the serial cats by making serial codes no longer inputtable, so there's a good chunk of the cats that are largely considered to be unobtainable, despite the fact that they still exist within the game, so it's all kind of weird. I would like to see some remedy around it, but I'm not too sure. Maybe like release him as part of an event or something, I don't know. In any case, let me know what all of you think down beneath in the comment section. I sure would appreciate it. As always, be sure to like and subscribe for Cat God's blessing, and I'll talk to you all soon.